The question is, how disappointed should the Clippers be? The Clippers should be awfully disappointed that they went out in the play-in tournament after having two opportunities, whether they had Kawhi or PG, simply because they've been a very, very resilient group. They've done a lot of good things without their superstars, and they actually done a lot of decent to good things before they even made the trade acquisition for Norman Powell and Robert Covington. They were still staying afloat. They were still doing things the right way. They were playing basketball collectively amongst each other, and they were understanding how to play with each other, even though they didn't have their two superstars, and they were just dealing with what they had, and they were doing it by committee, and they were doing it at the highest level I've seen a team do it without two of the top players in the NBA in most people's mind. And for Paul George to come back off the UCL injury was big. Kawhi setting to come back, sometime in the first round possibly, would have been big for them as well. So, of course we won't know that now, but at the same time, that was the notion. But in saying all that, even still, I personally still had the Clippers beating the Pelicans, simply because the Pelicans are a competitive team. I'll give them that. But at the same time, there again, the Clippers had more veteran leadership on their team. You got, Nicholas Batum. You got Marcus Morris. You got Reggie Jackson. You see what I'm saying? You got players who are veterans. Even Zubac been in the league a few years. Several years. So you got a lot of veteran leadership. Coming in. Out there contributing. So I figured there again, they would find a way to pull it out, and they did get a 12, 13 point lead, just found a way to squander it. And then the rest was history, for the Clippers. But in all essence, either way, I still think they should have won one of those playing games. As a matter of fact, they should have won the first one against the Timberwolves. I thought they had the advantage there too, and I think they were actually favored in both games. Actually, even regardless, they were favored in both games. So we can always talk about what should have happened, but it didn't end up that way, and the fact that it didn't, there's nothing you could do about that. But it's a very, very disappointing season, or the ending of a season for the Clippers, I would say, because like I said, there was more high hopes. I mean, if they could have just got into the playoffs, which I'm hearing now, fan reactions. Percentage-wise, so-called 75% of fans picked the Clippers to actually be in the playoffs, from the play-in tournament. That would be one of the teams that would be in the playoffs. And for them to lose both, I feel like that they're very disappointing in how that ended. Like I said, you for a team like this, you want to see them go forward just to see, like how far they can go in a 7-game series. How long would they take? How they would affect a team for 7 games, to see if a team can handle them for 7 games with their tough and grittiness, all that they come with and everything. And then, it doesn't happen because, they lose Paul George at just an unopportune time, which was the craziest thing I think I've heard. An injury just, or somebody, being called out of a game or not playing that game that morning of like the biggest game of the Clippers season. And it was just a really just awkward. I mean, I actually thought it was like somebody BSing or something like that online, but then it turned out to be true. So I was like, oh man, that's really a setback. But, you could talk about those things a lot, but even still, the Clippers did have a 13-point lead, without Paul George, and they had an opportunity to win that game. They really did. And as bad as they started that third quarter, they really, really stepped it up, and they just couldn't find a way to win it. They couldn't find a way to pull it out. And, usually, like I said, they're a resilient team who comes through and finds a way, but not that night. Willie Green's speech on the sideline really, really amped up the Pelicans, and B.I. and CJ McCollum and the rest of them. They were playing really good. They were playing inspired basketball. It's a difference when you're playing inspired basketball. And that was an inspiring little, speech or talk that he gave them, on the sidelines when they were being mic'd up. And I feel like that helped them a lot. But at the same time, the Clippers still could have won, but they didn't. So it's no need to really harp on that. But, just injuries have just hurt this team so much. And, it's always something, injuries, COVID, something. It's been like that all year, for this team. And it's been like that for this team since they've been put together. So, like I said, the opportunity is, the window's closing, but it isn't closed. So the Clippers still have an opportunity to win that championship. And next year is looking really good for them, because if they can stay healthy, man, this team is going to be a juggernaut. This team is going to be, they're going to be a team that nobody wants to see in a 7-game series. I can tell you that. I mean, the defense they'll have, the shooting, the spacing, the floor, man, they're going to have it all. But the thing with them, like I said, they got to stay healthy. If the Clippers stay healthy all season long, if that's even possible, the Clippers could have a number 1 seed in the West. They really could. I mean, they really could be that good. I mean, that's how good they can be. They can sustain the number 1 seed throughout the West the whole season if they stay healthy with the roster that they have going into the next season. So, I mean, really, that's something really, really good to look forward to, for the Clippers, especially now that their season is done and they're watching from home, just like some other teams. And it's really, really, a positive thing, as I said. But, you really want to see the Clippers, possibly at least get into the playoffs, because, they deserve to at least get in after all they, fought for this season to try to keep themselves afloat to make the playoffs. It's really demoralizing to see them not make it with 2 opportunities in the play-in to get in. So, but that's the way it goes sometimes, and there's no other way to really slice that. You have to, take the good with the bad in a situation like that. And that's what the Clippers, have to do. They had a lot of success, with their superstars, being out and things like that. But when you play a team where it's all on the line, winner take all, that's when you need your superstar players. That's when you need a star player who can just go out there and take pressure off of the role players and, allow the offense to flow better. And, Paul George, if he played, he could have definitely done that. Now, I'm not saying, the Clippers would have definitely won with Paul George. I feel like they would have, but I mean, because but at the same time, nothing's no guarantee. It could have been a game where Paul George came out shooting 3 for 15 or something like that, and then kept the Pelicans in the game, or something like that, and then it ended crazy or something, but I think their chances would have been so much better, of course, with Paul George there, no doubt. And the fact that he didn't, come through, make it that game, hopefully he's, doing okay, but at the same time, like, man, it was just a bad time for that to happen. And I'd definitely rather see, Clippers Nation in the playoffs right now, because it would be a lot more exciting. Like some of the like the Phoenix Suns and Pelicans matchup, I don't really think nobody really wants to look at that matchup. I mean, I think it's probably the most boring 7-game series matchup, probably going to be the most, I'm not going to say boring, but it's going to be the most lopsided, I think. I mean, I personally think that the Suns are going to beat them 4-0. I think it'd be a sweep. I'm not gonna say I'd be surprised if, Pelicans won 1 game, but no more than that, you know what I'm saying? So definitely not as competitive as it would have been if they would have had to play the Clippers. That's for sure. But I mean, hey, it is what it is now. Nothing you can do about it. But as for the Clippers, they just got to, move on to the next season and hope for that, and look at the positivity out of it. They get to come back next year healthy, and everybody gets to see, what they can look like as a potential team all together. They stay healthy and build the chemistry they're supposed to. So with that being said, that's all that Clippers Nation can wait for and hope for, and wait till it happens. But hey, that's my take on everything. Leave any comments in the comment section as always. And hey, Khaliis out.